Cooperation policy between central authorities of Serbia and provisional institutions of Kosovo would have to exist in the following areas: monetary policy, customs policy, and harmonization of fiscal policy. And finally, that the exclusive scope of competencies of provisional institutions of Kosovo would include budget and economy policy, agriculture, media, education, environmental protection, youth and sport, fiscal policy and tax collection, internal affairs, health, energy sector, infrastructure, and employment. In respect of international representation of Kosovo and issues relative to foreign affairs, our proposal is as follows. Serbia is internationally recognized entity, but Kosovo is entitled to have negotiations with other countries and international organizations in those areas pertaining to exclusive scope of competencies of Kosovo. As well, Kosovo would be entitled to establish trading and industry representative offices in other countries, and Kosovo could be a member of regional initiatives and international organizations which provide such option for non-sovereign members, primarily international financial institutions. Serbia's proposals for the future status of Kosovo is indeed in accordance with the international law, but at the same time it takes into consideration the real-life situation in Kosovo today. Serbia's proposal is a compromise and a win-win solution. The solution we are offering contains elements of those solutions which have already been applied in similar cases, and such cases are numerous: Hong Kong in China, Basque in Spain, South Tyrol in Italy. The issue of Kosovo must be dealt with in ways in which similar problems in other countries have been dealt with, by applying those solutions that have proven to be sustainable and functional.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now call upon Dr. Sergej Trivkovic. He's a co-founder of the Lord Byron Foundation, and he is also the Foreign Relations Director of the Rockford Institute in Illinois, United States, and the Foreign Affairs Editor of the magazine Chronicles, which is a magazine of American culture. Dr. Trivkovic is a well-known journalist and author, and is respected worldwide for his expertise not only in Balkans, but also in international affairs generally. Dr. Trivkovic.
Kosovo is neither unique nor insoluble. There are all over the world situations where different nations, different ethnic groups, and different religions vie for the same territory. What makes Kosovo so difficult to resolve is the fact that the United States policy for the past decade and a half has been consistently biased in favor of one party over the other. In fact, if we look at the so-called negotiating process under the Troika over the past almost 4 months, what has been lacking have been meaningful negotiations, because one party in the process had no incentive to negotiate at all, the Albanians. They had been told by the United States, by President Bush, by Condoleezza Rice, the Secretary of State, that they will get their independence one way or another. And what we are now witnessing is the danger of the United States not only unilaterally recognizing self-proclaimed entity in Pristina, but also exerting pressure on other countries to do likewise. Let there be no mistake, Canada will be under that pressure too. Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien mentioned in his memoirs that he was proud of his ability to resist the pressure on Canada to join the war in Iraq in 2003. What he failed to mention is that Canada did not resist that pressure in 1999 when Canada took part in the bombing of Serbia, illegally, without the UN mandate, and aggressively without due cause. If Canada follows the United States in the recognition of a self-proclaimed entity in Kosovo, and if it does so in violation of the United Nations and bypassing the Security Council, Canada will have violated decades of its commitment to the UN and of its proud record of taking part in UN peacekeeping operations and believing in multilateral institutions as the way to resolve conflicts and the way to proceed ahead. When all is said and done, one has to ask whether Canada's experience as a British Dominion some decades ago was so sweet and memorable that Canada is keen to maintain another external source of political authority, this time in Washington, D.C., the new Kremlin on the Potomac today. I hope and trust this will not be the case. By not accepting the recognition of Kosovo outside the framework of the Security Council, Canada will stand up for the United Nations and for the principles of multilateralism and true international community, the one that will include China and Russia and India, which will certainly not recognize Kosovo without a UN Security Council resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Trifkovic. That pretty well winds up our press conference. Perhaps I could conclude by supporting what Dr. Trifkovic has said. There is a United Nations resolution that applies to Kosovo, Resolution 1244. Had it been followed in good faith by the NATO countries and the United Nations, we would not be in the mess we are now in Kosovo. 1244 was a sensible resolution, and it called for the disarming of the KLA, it called for the return to Kosovo of all the refugees and the establishment there of a multi-ethnic society following the rule of law and democratic institutions. It also made provision for Serbian security units to come back to Kosovo to guard the holy places, some of them dating back, as you know, from the 12th, 13th century. And finally, it reaffirmed Kosovo's sovereignty over Kosovo, Serbia's sovereignty over Kosovo. None of those provisions have been met, and it now appears that because of U.S. influence and persuasion, none of those provisions of the UN resolution were meant to be met. And so now we have a situation where the stability of the Western Balkans is as much a threat now to their neighbors as ever before. And if Canada does recognize an independent declaration by Kosovo, we are breaking international law, we are violating the UN Charter, and we are making a mockery of the Helsinki Final Acts. So I would urge the Canadian government, as Mr. Harper, the Prime Minister Harper has himself said, that Canadian foreign policy in future should be based on independent decisions and decisions that are recognized by the international community. Thank you very much.